Hello, my name is Cindy Moliere and I will be explaining the genetic disorder called albinism. So what is albinism? Albinism is a condition where a person has a lack of melanin, which is the pigment that gives physical traits such as hair, skin, and eyes color. Albinism occurs in all racial and ethnic groups throughout the world. In the US, approximately 1 in 18,000 people have some type of albinism. In other parts of the world, the occurrence can be as high as 1 in 3,000. Albinism is a disorder that is inherited. The cause of albinism comes from the lack of melanocytes. The melanocytes may be present, however, the genetic mutation interferes with the pigment production. There is also a lack of ability to distribute keratinocytes. Because albinism was discovered so long ago, no one is certain who discovered it. However, most scientists believe that Sir Archibald Edward Garrard discovered the disease. The phenotype ranges from lack of pigment in the skin, hair, and/or eyes. People with albinism have vision problems that are not correctable with eyeglasses, and many have low vision. They usually have very pale or gray eyes. Patients may also have photophobia, which causes sensitivity to light. Nystagmus, which is involuntary rhythmic eye movements, or a squint, which is where the eyes point in different directions. It's the abnormal development of the retina and the abnormal patterns of nerve connections between the eye and the brain that causes vision problems. Albinism is broken down into two subcategories: ocular albinism and oculocutaneous albinism. Under oculocutaneous albinism, there are four types. OCA1 or tyrosinase related albinism results from a genetic defect in an enzyme called tyrosinase. This enzyme helps the body to change the amino acid tyrosin into pigment. This results in white hair and very pale skin. OCA2 or P gene albinism results from a genetic defect in the P protein that helps the tyrosinase enzyme to function. People with OCA2 make a minimum amount of melanin pigment and can have hair color ranging from very light blonde to brown. OCA3 is rarely described in people and results from a genetic defect in TYRP1, a protein related to tyrosinase. People with OCA3 can have substantial pigment. OCA4 results from a genetic defect in the SLC45A2 protein that helps the tyrosinase enzyme to function. People with OCA4 make a minimum amount of melanin pigment similar to people with OCA2. The genes for OCA are located on autosomal chromosomes. Autosomes are the 22 pairs of chromosomes that contain genes for our general body characteristics compared to the one pair of sex chromosomes. We normally have two copies of these chromosomes and many genes on them, one inherited from our father and the other inherited from our mother. For a recessive trait, like most type of albinisms to occur, both of the person's chromosomes must carry that trait. This means that the most type of albinism results from inheriting an albinism trait from both the mother and the father, who most often have normal pigmentation. If both parents are carriers of the mutated gene, then their child has a 25% chance of having albinism, a 50% chance of being a carrier, and a 25% chance of the child to not be a carrier and to not have the condition. X-linked recessive conditions mainly affect males. Because females carry two X chromosomes, if one gene is damaged, the other can often make up in the shortfall. Females can still carry and pass on the gene. Men, however, have one X and one Y chromosome. This means that any albino mutation in their singular X chromosome will generate the condition. If the mother has an X-linked mutation, each daughter will have 1 in 2 chances of becoming a carrier of, and each son will have a 1 in 2 chance of developing albinism. Hermansky-Pudlak syndrome is a rare variant that is common in Puerto Rico. It mainly affects males, similar to oculocutaneous albinism, but patients have a higher chance of bowel, heart, kidney, and lung diseases or bleeding disorders. The lives of people with this syndrome can be shortened by lung disease or other medical problems. Chidiac-Higashi syndrome is another rare form of albinism caused by a mutation in the CHS1-LYST genes. Hair can appear silvery and the skin can look slightly gray. There may be defects in the white blood cells, making infections more common. Because most people with albinism have fair complexions, it's important to avoid sun damage to the skin and eyes by taking precautions such as wearing sunscreen, sunblock, sunglasses, and sun protective clothing. The National Organization for Albinism and Hypopigmentation was founded in 1982. Their goal is to provide vision and support to individuals with albinism so they feel empowered to be members of society. Essentially, they are a place of acceptance and fellowship. Here is Leo. He is a 22 albino man living in Britain. Both of his parents come from African descent and are carriers of the albino mutation. Leo has two other siblings who are also affected by albinism. When he was younger, his family moved to a new neighborhood where they were the first black family to live on the street. So not only was he black, but he was also albino. His family was published in many magazines because of this rare situation. However, he and his siblings would get bullied on a daily basis. Leo is now a rising model, and he also mentors young children who also have albinism, such as this boy, Matthew. In conclusion, people with albinism are at a risk of isolation because of the condition is often misunderstood. Social stigmas can occur, especially within communities of color, where the race or paternity of a person with albinism may be questioned. Families and schools must make an effort to include children with albinism in group activities. Thank you.